Firstly, what were the circumstances that led to this incident? Because we've all seen sort of grainy footage, and footage, as we know from previous incidents, people draw all sorts of conclusions. What were the circumstances with which this happened?
Well, let's be absolutely clear, Henry. There has not yet been even the start of an official investigation into what took place on the streets of Minneapolis yesterday. And there is evidence that, as with the case of Nicole Good earlier this month, the federal government here, the Trump administration, is taking steps to make sure that any investigation that takes place is uniquely in their realm, that the local authorities in Minneapolis don't get an opportunity to contribute to that, and therefore the government's detractors will argue they are about to engage in a cover-up. They certainly have spent the last 24 hours engaged in the most breathtaking mendacity about what seems to have taken place on the streets of Minneapolis. Yes, much of that video is grainy, but some of it is also extraordinarily detailed and specific. It is absolutely clear that 37-year-old Alex Pretti, we now know an intensive care unit nurse, was filming perfectly legally the operations of the Border Patrol as they descended on that street where he found himself in Minneapolis. We also know that Border Patrol agents pushed another protester very hard to the ground, and Mr Pretti, with his hand up and the other hand on his camera, the camera was the only thing he was brandishing. He certainly at no point in any video can be seen brandishing a pistol, as the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, has declared. Mr Pretti tries to render assistance to the woman who has been thrown to the ground by Border Patrol agents. They then descend upon him. He does not seek to engage with them. They are the ones who begin this tussle that leads to his killing at the hands of those Border Patrol agents who fire 10 shots at him. Now, this issue of the pistol, he was legally entitled to carry that loaded pistol. I mean, you can't have it both ways. If you're a fan of the Second Amendment and you believe that Americans have the right to bear arms under the United States Constitution, he'd done everything the right way. He'd got a legal permit to carry that gun. Why he was carrying it at the protest, we do not know. But there is no indication that at any point did he reach for that gun, and certainly he did not, in any of the videos that have been publicly made available, brandish it in the direction of law enforcement officers, who then engaged in a cold-blooded killing of Mr Pretti after one of them disarmed him of the pistol. You can clearly see the law enforcement officer carrying the pistol away from the scene. After Mr Pretti is killed, a couple of Border Patrol agents can be seen desperately rolling his body over and trying to find the gun that had already been removed from the scene by another Border Patrol officer before he was shot to death. I mean, that's factually what the videos demonstrate. What we've heard from Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, from Kash Patel, the FBI director today, from Stephen Miller, the Deputy White House Chief of Staff, who described Mr Pretti as a would-be assassin, is an effort to blacken the name of this man whose own family are now demanding an investigation that is going to reveal the truth of what happened on the streets of Minneapolis yesterday, rather than the fiction that is currently being presented by administration officials.
I remember reading a statistic when this happened, as you mentioned, with Renee Nicole Good, that 3 individuals are shot by police, that sort of broad term in the United States, every day on average across the country. This, understandably, not just the area, but the fact it is done by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has put it right back in the spotlight. Are you surprised that Donald Trump has continued once again to double down on this and to sort of give these ICE officers seemingly free rein to do whatever the hell they want?
Well, I'm not surprised at all, because I think Donald Trump's aim is to foment as much unrest on the streets of American cities as possible between now and America's midterm election day in November, because I think he wants a pretext, if necessary, to invoke the 1807 Insurrection Act and flood the streets of cities and towns all over the country with active duty military personnel if he needs to, so he can then claim there's a national state of emergency, and he will raise questions about whether America's midterm elections can even take place. He's already on 2 occasions, just earlier this month, argued, the White House says facetiously, that America shouldn't even be having those midterm elections. But Henry, it's important also to understand what has happened in the 18 days between the killing of Renee Good, that 37-year-old American citizen shot to death in her car by an ICE agent, and the killing of Alex Pretti yesterday at the hands of the Border Patrol. What occurred over that intervening period of time was the Trump administration giving these masked thugs that have been unleashed by President Trump on the streets of Minneapolis a license to kill. They were absolutely directly told by Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, that they had full immunity over their actions, that no one could stop them from going about what he described as their legal law enforcement operations. We've heard J.D. Vance, the Vice President, describing the killing of Ms. Good as justified. We had J.D. Vance only at the end of last week defending the detention of a 5-year-old by ICE agents and justifying that. So, I mean, it has been made absolutely clear to this hastily recruited, undertrained, in many cases not even fully security-checked Border Patrol and ICE agents that they can do whatever they want on the streets of America. That's what they did yesterday in Minneapolis, and this is not the end of it at all, even as there is nervousness among some of President Trump's fellow Republicans on Capitol Hill about what's taking place. And there is also evidence in the opinion polls that 1 in 3 of his Make America Great Again voters in 2024 support the goals of mass deportations, but do not approve of the manner in which the Trump administration is now implementing this policy.